Hey guys, welcome to a brand new video to the channel. Welcome to Monday, which only means one thing. Welcome to the Runescape weekly update. So in terms of this week, we have had another pretty decent one come to the game. We have had the mid-game rebalancing. Now, if you guys are enjoying the videos, and if you haven't seen the release of the brand new series of the free-to-play bond accounts, I'll put the link to the video in the corner. And what I want you guys to do in the comments for this video is to let me know what your thoughts are of this update. Let's get a little bit of a discussion going in the comment section. And if you are brand new, drop me a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It is free and it helps me to be seen by more and more people, and we are pushing for 12.5 thousand subscribers by the end of the year. So the mid-game balance review, one I think is a bit more important than the low-level one. The low-level one was really good for sort of getting rid of a lot of the fluff in terms of early game progression, and to make it a lot more streamlined and easier for brand new players to come into the game. Now, the next stage of problems which happen to these brand new players is that they sort of rush through the early game because the early game speed now is quite quick. And then you get to the mid-game, and the mid-game is quite tricky in Runescape 3. You kind of get lost because there's so many different paths you can take, and there's a little bit of imbalance between items and skills and stuff like that, which hopefully this update is addressed. Now, because it's a big update, pretty much like the construction one last year, we do have two posts. We have patch notes, and then we have the mid-game release. So what we'll do first is go for the patch notes, see if there's anything worthwhile picking out and letting you guys know about as well. So we have some changes since they released the preview a couple of weeks ago. They have further buffed the Anachronia full lap completion XP, which is really nice. I do think with the Anachronia for actually training agility is a very good way of doing it. You actually make quite a lot of cash because you can go and get the codex with the pages, but it's also relatively good XP, which will only be better now. Agility is a major problem in the game, just because of how it's trained, and XP rates is a really big problem, and when Silverhawks kind of fizzle out because there's not really many feathers left in the game, then it's going to be a problem for anyone who wants to train it, because it really is one of those skills which is a bit of a slog. They've done a really good job with all the updates they've done over numerous years of kind of like making the skills less grindy, but there are still a few which are just plain painful, and I do think agility really is at the top of that list. We have further buffed XP for Harmonic Dust, we've removed negative perks from Invention, and increase the waiting for Vanica to offer Sanguine Crawler tasks, which is good because if you're someone who's mid-level slaying, those Sanguine Crawler tasks are going to be incredible GP for you. Even with just a Sanguine Matter, it is actually such an expensive secondary, which is really nice, but also you're going to have a chance getting those Vampirism gloves as well. We have the Artificer's Measure, which now works with the upgraded gem bag, and then you can use this gem bag now for Opal, Jade, and Topaz, which is actually a really good way to make some cash. Those gem rocks are really good profit. I think like the Jade is like 5k each, so they're quite expensive compared to like the common gems. Now, one of the big things which was mentioned in the sort of overall update for this was going to be the Fletching retier. And this basically highlights that there was a lot of issues with Fletching which didn't sort of like match up to stuff. So like a magic short bow being able to be equipped at 50 range, but also 80 Fletching to go and get, didn't really match up. So what they've done is gone through and sort of ironed out a lot of the inconsistencies and changed a couple of things. Right, so the summary of changes. So they've re-tiered existing short bows, long bows, crossbows into H bows. Shield bows, unless they're a specialist weapon, are no longer in the game. They have now reverted back to long bows, which I think was right because shield bows really lost their uses. Short bows and long bows are now tiered back to level 70. And the free-to-play option now is going to be through Maple and Acadia bows, which is nice because it just means there's another tier of bows for these players to fletch and also use as well. The free-to-play game still gets the benefit of having a tier 40 and 50 bow, whereas like you and Magic kind of have a better purpose now. And hopefully that with this bit of an overhaul, they have better invention components as well, because they are very good for invention components, but if they're high tiered, maybe you're going to go and get some better rewards. The strike bow will remain a shield bow. All current shield bows will gain +1 range when converted to longbows. Standardized metal usage in terms of crossbows. So Orichalcum, Necronium, Elder Rune will all have a crossbow variant. I'll tell you that as well. You're going to get the bolts available to be made as well. So arrows and bolts, Orichalcum all the way to Elder Rune are now an option as well, which is really, really nice. There's some stuff with the Bane ammunition as well, which is slightly changed, but you still have the ability to tune it into certain things as well, which would be really, really nice. They've also as well created primal ammunition to be able to be created in the same sort of manner. There is a free tier in terms of a table. So Magic Shortbow now, fletching level is going to be 80, which is nice. The range level is now going to be 80 as well to match that up. It really didn't make sense that it sort of needed level 80 fletching to be able to wield it to level 50 range. It didn't really make sense. So they've gone through this, re-tiered everything so it's kind of balanced now. Everything has a different tier, and we do have the option now to make, like I mentioned before, Orichalcum, Necronium, Bane, Elder Rune, crossbows, bolt tips, arrow tips, all that sort of stuff as well. We now have the next stage of the agility rebalance, which I think is very, very important because agility is the problem. Like I mentioned in the earlier clip, it is the problem which needs to be addressed. And as you can see here, some of the XP bump ups is going to be pretty big. You're sort of looking like another couple of K per hour, like the Dorkshan Khan one as well, started at 53k. It's now 123. The Heffing course going from 60,000 to 102,000, very good. Advanced Gnome Stronghold, 65k to 162, very good. The full Anachrony course going from 150k to 210. Advanced Barbarian Outpost, 71,000 XP per hour, now to 189,000 XP per hour. Like, these XP rates which they've been converted to and moved to the new XP per hour is something you could quite happily grind agility on, like around 150 to 200k an hour. That is worthwhile doing, and worthwhile doing in terms of training your XP as well. Now, very similar to what they've done for agility, they've looked at rebalancing Divination. So in terms of the early update, they kind of focused on Divination quite a bit to make sure that your success rate was a lot better. And I really think it did improve the early sort of Divination levels. So what they've now done is for the higher tier stuff, they've amended these as well. They've focused more on the sort of higher second end of the invention energy. So things like Incandescence and Luminous doesn't really get much of a boost, but to be fair, I think that's about correct. Divination, it's really noticeable that the higher your level is, the more success rate you get. So Gleaming has got 4%, Vibrant 3, Lustrous 2, Brilliant 1, Radiant 1, and the other two are going to come in at 0.5 as well, which is really nice. And I think that'll be really good, especially for that lower level Divination. Cash, you actually have to go and do Divination now to go and unlock for cash. So the fact that you can do Divination now with a much higher success rate is just a nicer thing as well. It just means it's a bit more streamlined. It's not going to be incredibly quicker. Invention is still going to be a little bit slower, but it is an AFK skill. So it's worthwhile doing, but the fact that you can have a little bit more success rate now is really, really nice. Now, God Wars Dungeon have made some changes to God Wars Dungeon, which I think was kind of needed because it is a little bit outdated now. So what they've done is gone to the system which is in God Wars 2, where you can sort of stack up your KC up to 200 kill count, and then basically you can just go straight in, which is really nice. It just means that more and more people can then like just do God Wars 1 easy, and especially because like God Wars 1 can be used for Reaper tasks, Slayer tasks and stuff like that. It just means it's a lot more fluid in terms of doing it as well. They made some changes to the Demonic Skull, and they are now removing that as well. It's no longer attainable, so it will vanish from your bank. Invention perks, they've looked at quite a lot of the invention perks, which really aren't worthwhile. There are negative effects. And what they've basically done is got rid of them, which I'm a big fan of, because like, you could go and roll a really high tier invention perk, and then if you got one of these negative ones, you've kind of just spent a lot of money to go and get this really expensive perk, and it's not worthwhile. So it's very much a nice update, and one which I'm hopefully going to be a positive effect for anyone looking to do some invention. The dive ability no longer requires succession and is instead unlocked at 30 agility. This is massive because mobility and maneuverability around the game is absolutely huge for this. Like, so much of a bossing requires you to be able to dive and surge and move around the room. Having succession is quite a big requirement, especially for the newer to mid accounts. To have it at a level only 30 agility is really, really good. The red and crystal sandstone has now been looked into, and you have the ability now to go and do this. You do have some additional boosts for high tier sources. So they've gone and reduced all these sandstone spots by 50, including the crystal ones in the spaces where you can unlock through like the diaries and stuff. And also the Sophium red sandstone spot as well, that has also been done. Harmonic dust has also been improved in terms of its drop rate, because it was something which people would get through a traveling merchant. They've done this and sort of worked towards making it an increased rate, so increased by 40% is actually really, really nice. Instance costs have now been removed from all boss encounters, so that means you're not having to pay like 200k. There is boss specific ones where you're going to use like keystones, keys of the crossing, and barrows totems. You still need to do that, but anything where you used to spend like 200k for an hour, you no longer have to do that now. The Jad pet is now a drop and available, and is now onto Jad's table and also a collection log. We have the upgraded gem bag, which will now include things like gem, opal, and red topaz, up to 100 gems of each, which is a really good mining method and definitely something I'm going to have a look at as well. They've increased some drop rates, so the dragon pickaxe has now been increased, and quite heavily as well, from 1 in 5,000 at the chaos dwarves, and 1 in 3,000, and from the chaos giants from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1,000. The sanguine crawlers and vampirism gloves, so on a slayer task, the gloves have now dropped from 1 in 500 to 1 in 200. I didn't realize it was that low of a rate. Off task, it's 1 in 2,000 now to 1 in 1,000. And then Vanika's waiting for this has been increased to 15 as well. But that's a really good drop rate in terms of Slayer tasks. 1 in 200 means that these will come in significantly quicker. And it was still quite an expensive price. Like on the last double XP weekend, I was sort of selling them for like 20 mil. The Core Beast sigils have been amended, so they now have changed from a 1 in 512 to a 1 in 256. Really good chance now to go and jump in and go and get that Corp log finished. And you now have an equal chance to be rewarded. So whereas before the Divine was a lot rarer to go and get, now this has all been amended. So that is pretty much all of the patch notey side. We'll go through the other update post now. This is a bit more generic and the normal one as well. But from all those patch notes, they've addressed some of these serious problems. So Fletching really needed just more of an iron out and a rebalance like what they've done. The agility XP rates now are incredible. Like there's some really good methods to do. Like 150k agility XP per hour is kind of the sort of XP rate where you'd be encouraged to go and do it. Especially the Anachronia course as well, where you can combine that with a decent chunk of cash as well. Really, really good there. And Divination's nice to have that done as well. So in terms of this week, community topics. So we have Leagues 2. Some of the teasers and details are going to be dropping around as well. They're keeping an eye on the trophies and how it's being discovered and stuff like that. They're monitoring all the construction stuff and they are sort of dipping in and moving stuff whenever they need to just to keep it updated. We have the mid-game rebalance, which we've just gone through as well. They're doing some construction stuff as well to rebalance this. Again, this is something they're doing more and more nowadays where they release the updates and then fine-tune it afterwards. But it's good to see that they're still paying attention and not just leaving it to be here as well. So they want the eternal magical planks to provide better value, which I do agree. I do think it was a bit flat in terms of what it was used for. I thought it'd be used for some real high tier stuff, and it really wasn't. It was in places, but not as much as what it could be. They want to maintain healthy XP rates, which there has been a lot of complaints about the XP rates, and training through the new house method is just not good, and they've nerfed Fort Frimfree as well. So really interested to see what they're going to do with that, and then they're going to offer a smoother post 99 progression as well. So really interested to see what they're going to do with that. They have made some amendments to the Eternal Plank XP. They've increased it from 200 to 520 and amended some levels. So the Eternal Stool, Chair, Bookcase and Table have all been brought forward slightly. It seems to be like between 1 and 2 levels they have been brought. They've also amended a couple of the level benefits as well, which is, yeah, that's nice. Now, Fort Frimfree was a big thing, so they made some XP changes for Fort Frimfree, which is actually pretty massive, and it's going to be a really good way for us to make some money, because what they've done here is what the base of a Fort Frimfree change was that they wanted people who went and chased a bonus to get more XP, which is fine, that's correct. However, now what they're doing is giving you an option that you can now build eternal magic frames, and for 65 of these on a tier 5 structure, to go and reinforce it, it's going to give you 500k construction XP. But the fact that now we have eternal magical frames should be absolutely massive, a really good way to go and check that out and to go and make some money with it as well. Construction contracts have been slightly amended. They've now added eternal magical planks, which will give you a bonus of 5,000 XP as well, which is nice to see that they're considering to continue to make some changes to it as well. So going down as well, more patches in terms of like just general construction stuff. There's some player owned housing stuff as well, which is worthwhile, and nice that they're making these amendments quite quick. But I think at least over the next couple of weeks, we're still going to go and get some fixes with construction of just iron out some problems with it being actually in the game now, and just some slight amendments from there. But in terms of an update week for the mid-game balance, really, really happy. They have targeted more of the pinch points and they've focused on more of these. Rather than do everything, I'd much rather they focus on the things which are really causing problems and then address them like that. But something which has gone really under the radar, which they've not sort of mentioned a lot, is the fact that now you can go and make those eternal magical frames, which I'm going to go and try out now and see what they're like for a video, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But that's going to wrap up this video for today. I'll do a video a little bit later on about the eternal magical planks. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Really hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about this update, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next video.